Alright, everyone, the fact is that any sane person understands that we're not running concentration camps on our southern border. It's funny because then the Area 51 Groom Lake was dragged into that joke, actually. But I wasn't going to address this because, I prefer to think that most of you that are going to watch this are sane, and so you know that this is bullshit. But then there's, I didn't expect it to last quite as long, the bullshit about us having concentration camps. So I figured that for the benefit of people who are on the fence and don't quite understand the situation, some major reasons why that's not the case. It's fairly straightforward. The first thing that you can point out is very, very simple. In the revisionist minds of the Democrats, I guess what happened in the 40s is that millions of Jews and atheists and gay people and Roma and the disabled and Jehovah's Witnesses and shit poured into Nazi Germany to try to take advantage of their health care and their welfare systems. That's, I guess, the revisionist history of the 1940s, but that's not actually what happened. People were trying to get out and of course, didn't work so well most of the time. Here we don't have that problem. This isn't us detaining people who are trying to flee the country because it's so horrible and authoritarian and you can't do anything. This is us nabbing people largely who have already come here illegally, sometimes have been staying here for a period of time. If things are so horrible here, why is it that even though you can break the law 24/7 just by being here, you're left alone for sometimes years at a time? When you do get detained, Congress won't even let you be detained for more than 90 days. They process you, they can't deport you, except now they're going to use Guatemala for that. It's funny because we've been doing this all along anyway. A lot of these camps, and indeed the kids in cages sort of stuff, the sinks on top of toilet stuff that AOC, misconstrued willfully in order to propagandize to people, all of those things were implemented by Bush and Obama. A lot of it was in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. You'll remember, history lesson for people on recent U.S. civics that they forgot. President George W. Bush, after Katrina, was fucking reamed up his ass by the lack of emergency response. We had tens of thousands of people internally displaced within the U.S. from urban communities in and around the New Orleans area, for especially low rent sort of areas. They were inundated, their homes were gone. They were displaced. They wandered around from community to community, in some cases for months, looking for temporary shelter. There was no shelter for them offered by the government. What happened is that people demanded that the government do something. And I can remember this because at the time I sparred with some of the Zeitgeist people when they started building these facilities in and around, especially the border, hurricane-prone areas, the U.S. southern border and so forth. They're like, oh my God, these are death camps. But by the way, they're purchasing coffins and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, if you have a mass casualty incident, you want to bury those bodies fairly quickly so you don't get an outbreak of illness or something. And I tried to point that out. And the conspiracy theorists, loose term there, of course, I don't like using it, but people understand it, were having none of it and said, no, they're like death camps. Now you have people on the other side of the spectrum basically saying the same thing. Oh my God, they're like concentration camps. No, they're not. They're detainment facilities for emergencies. We're under a national emergency right now, one that's been blocked repeatedly by the legislature and judiciary, but it's fairly clear when you have tens of millions of people in your country who are undocumented in some form or another, who are illegally here, they're breaking the law just by physically being here, regardless of their interior circumstances, and I do understand some of them, brought here as a kid, they served in the armed forces, they're trying to get, they've been here most of their life, they speak fluent. Okay, understood. I can understand that their situation is a little bit different from someone just recently crossed the border and doesn't speak a lick of English. That being said, they're still illegally here. For legal purposes, legislature hasn't changed the law at all with regards to these things. The closest thing you have is DACA. But DACA's deferred action, not, hey, we're never going to take action. Hey, you can stay here forever, you'll never get deported without a status. It was deferred action. It was sold to the American people by the Obamaites as a stopgap on the fact that there was too many people to reasonably deport them all. So you would take most of these more law-abiding segments of illegaldom and you would say, okay, you're the last party, we'll deal with you later. We've got people in this country who are criminals or who are engaged in the black market and stuff like that. We're going to get rid of them first. By the way, Obama deported more people than Trump has. Now, of course, that's a little bit misleading. You do understand. But it is technically true. Yes, deportations were at their highest under Obama. Part of the problem is, though, of course, with catch and release, it didn't really make a difference now, did it? What happened is you'd deport someone, they'd walk back across the border because you lacked border enforcement, and so you could deport the same person 3 or 4 times. That's why it looks like Obama was being a hardliner. He actually wasn't being, but he did deport people. I guess the idea was, hey, the Obama economy's so fucked up that no one will want to come here anyway. Well, now we've got the Trump economy exacerbating the problem. The only reason that it's kind of even Stevens is we have more border control agents and better facilities now, and we've retrofitted and repaired some of our border defenses. We should have a coherent border wall. It doesn't matter whether it's a 30-foot steel barrier or a medieval-looking embankment. The former is a lot cheaper to maintain, by the way, which is why we build it that way. But no, these camps along the border that have been built or expanded and so forth, they're better now than they were under Obama. The left never said a fucking word about Obama. The famous kids in cages picture comes from, like, what was it, 2007, I believe. That picture is badly dated. They're trying to pass it off as though it's current. I mean 2012, like in the mid-Obama era. They're trying to pass it off as though Trump has magically decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to dehumanize these people as much as possible. I'm going to cram them in, put them in cages and mistreat them, make them drink out of toilets and stuff. This is propaganda. None of that is actually happening. Nazi Germany did not say, yeah, we're going to take in millions of people from surrounding areas. We're going to put them in these things. We're going to give them, food and free healthcare and educational training and stuff like that because the kids, they get schooling. That didn't happen. But that's what the Democrats want us to believe is happening at the southern border today. Meanwhile, the Democrats don't give a fucking shit about the legal immigration system. You realize how onerous, burdensome, expensive, bureaucratic, and strangulated the legal immigration system is? And if you've got any experience with it, you know full well. But illegals, so basically they say, we want Americans to have to pay much higher taxes for universal health care, but we're also going to make them pay for tens of millions of people who aren't even citizens. Meanwhile, people who want to legally immigrate, we're going to keep the visas throttled. We're going to keep the lottery system going. We're going to keep kicking people out for little to no reason. Like if you're a conditional resident and you fucking jaywalk, they practically deport you. But meanwhile, if you come here, you're explicitly illegally in the country. As long as you don't kill somebody or rape somebody, and even then with catch and release, how would you know? Yeah, it doesn't even matter. They don't even care. Oh, you get free shit. Come on, come on. Give us your tired and poor huddled masses. Please, lots and lots of them, because eventually we want blanket amnesty, says the Democrats. By the way, attempting to assimilate 20, 30 million potentially illegal immigrants into the country lock, stock, and barrel under such a program would be nightmarish. It'd probably collapse the economy. Even if it's a one-time thing, okay, go ahead, but you need a border defense system first, and they're not willing to build it. They would rather absorb trillions of dollars in excess welfare costs than pay a few billion to complete our border defenses. And there's no concentration camps. If they were concentration camps, you should be blaming Bush and Obama because they're the ones that built and expanded and formatted them exactly the way they are today. The only difference with Trump is he has given them more money and staff to try to ameliorate the bad situation that was already there. He attempted for months to secure billions in funding to improve these structures, to make them larger so that they aren't as dense, to make them better, to supply healthcare and education food to illegals that were there. He attempted to do that. Congress blocked him for 4 or 5 fucking months. They are the ones responsible for the border crisis. The liberals invited people over and said, everyone should come here. Storm the border, will prevent you from being deported. So all of a sudden, the number of people coming in skyrocketed. That caused the high concentration of people in the border facilities. They never bothered to tell them, by the way, you should try to come through a port of entry if you intend to gain any form of refugee status at all. Even if you believe that economic migrants, absent a safe third country, until recently with Guatemala again, even if you believe that that's a legitimate asylum claim, which is not true, AOC got smacked in the face the other day on this, even if you believe that, you can't just walk across the border and then retroactively claim asylum. That's not how it works. People are coming to this country because we're allowing them to take advantage of our country. And I have nothing but sympathy for many of them. The problem is here. Most of these people have been displaced because of socialist economics in their home countries. Far leftism. Why don't we try to get them to reform their own economies so we don't have this problem anymore? We wouldn't have millions of people from Venezuela and Nicaragua and stuff pouring into the country if those countries weren't ruined by leftism. Let's get back to the business of attempting to spread real, honest-to-goodness, free market capitalism to countries that desperately need it, and to try to get liberty spread around the world, to allow classical liberalism to grow. We're not going to accomplish that by saying fuck everything, fuck our borders, hail globalism, multinationals should rape the whole planet, and they should give brain drain to the third world, and they should pump the first world full of low-level workers to keep wages low. That's not going to help. Censoring the internet's not going to help. Neoliberal politics have completely failed. The greedy, corporate, bought-off turd neoliberals and neocons have failed us completely. They should all be out of office. Every single one of them, regardless of what party they're in. There's plenty of Republicans that fall under those two broad headers. That's not what we need for the future. And these other countries are run by socialists. That's not what they need either. They need to get rid of their socialist El Presidentes down there in Latin America. If you got rid of them, you'd have no problem. You wouldn't have these refugees. So-called. Again, so-called because the Democrats have said, hey, don't even bother coming through a port of entry. Don't even bother making a claim. It can get rejected. Just come in and we won't ever let you get deported. If you can make it to the promised land of California, then you can just be illegal there forever. You can have a job and drive a car and do everything else. We'll even give you free health care on the backs of U.S. taxpayers that are trying to save an economy that had been hemorrhaging since the end of the Bush administration. That's what they really want. They have nothing but disdain and reprehension, it seems, for U.S. citizens and for law-abiding residents and legal immigrants that have come by the millions to this country over the last decade to try to start a new life. Legal immigrants from all over the world. They get screwed. They jump through hoops for years and years. They pay thousands of dollars and jump through hoops and hire immigration lawyers and shit like that. They do paperwork, submit biometrics. They do everything under the sun right to try to get into this country. 3-4 years later, they finally get residency or citizenship or whatever. After a lengthy process mostly, especially if it's on like a student or a work visa. It takes them years and years to become an American or an American resident, and meanwhile somebody else with no virtue at all, someone who's been a fucking cartel member or whatever, they walk across the border and the Democrats say, oh, you poor child, Trump is so mean for not seeing the joy on your face when you crossed into the United States. Meanwhile, these people, these are the same people who said, well, Melania Trump is problematic. She's an immigrant too, ha ha. Yes, a legal immigrant. Therein lies the difference. She speaks fluent English and actually signed the paperwork and tried to come into the country the right way, which is more than you can say for all of these pets that the Democrats refer to them as. The Democrats look at the illegals that are in the country today, and they don't even see them as human, I think. They see them as nothing more than pawns. It's a weird sort of thing. It sort of is that Southern Dem mentality that you'd expect of like a Biden or Warren. That's really what they think. They like to dehumanize people. Just look at Hillary Clinton and her deplorable statements. That's about all. Peace out.